I am sitting at my desk. I am wearing a navy blue pencil skirt and white blouse, pumps with high stiletto heels and a shoulder-length brown hair. My makeup is perfectly done. My lips are red. Under it all, I am wearing a tight corset which is crushing my waist into a nice girl figure, lots of padding in the right places, and tan pantyhose. How did I get here? How did I become what I am? Here is my story. It all started with my friend Teresa. She had recently moved in with her boyfriend Patrick. I had recently lost my job and moved out of my house after a divorce. Shit happens. Actually, I should not say that. Sometimes people just grow apart. Anyway, I needed a place to live. The ex had gotten half the house and money. It is a good thing that we had enough to split, without both being poor. A few good choices in jobs, and stocks had left us in good financial condition. And we split up without a lot of hostility. Which means that we did not make a couple of lawyers rich. We just split our assets, and that was that. I was not rich, but I was not poor either. Teresa said I could live with them until I got a place of my own. That is how I ended up living in their guest room. Actually, it was not quite that easy. Her boyfriend was not happy about having me live there. He did not mind me being her friend, but living there was a bit much for him. I did not find out this until later. It turns out that in order to get him to agree, she had told him that I was gay. She told me that as I was unloading my stuff out of earshot of Patrick. When I protested, she said she did not have a choice, and neither did I if I wanted to live there. It wasn't if I had to do anything. And I would not be there for all that long. So, I agreed. It was nice living there. They have a nice house in a nice neighborhood in the suburbs. Patrick worked a lot, so I did not see much of him. Teresa was not there often as she worked in sales and traveled often. When she was home, she spent most of her time doing all the paperwork and office stuff for her sales. It left me alone often. Since I was just sitting around, I did most of the cooking and cleaning at the house and grocery shopping. Not that it was much effort. I figured it was only fair since I was not paying anything to live there. I was having trouble finding a job due to the economy. Nobody seemed to want middle managers anymore. Companies were getting rid of management layers, not adding to them. At least the successful ones were. So, I sent resumes, and sometimes I got rejection letters. Mostly, I got nothing at all. One evening, Teresa was at home, working as usual. I was bored, so I asked if I could help. She laughed and said, "If you could do my expense reports, then you could." I replied, "It can't be that much different to how I did in my last job. Let me have a look." And I did. It was just a matter of taking all her receipts and entering them in a spreadsheet. It can be a bit time-consuming, but not hard. She finished early that night. Over dinner, she said, "Most of the other salesmen hire a secretary to do this stuff, but I don't, as it comes out of my budget. That is why I am always so busy at night." By desert, we had a plan. I would do her secretarial work for room and board. It was a great deal for both of us. I could save money, and she would get a secretary for free. It was accepted that I would keep looking for a full-time job in the meantime. She added one more request of me. Since I would be working out of her house, and would not be meeting with customers or anybody, she wanted a female secretary. Apparently this was the norm with her employer. She wanted me to be Tina Smith. This was not a problem for me. It is only on paper anyway. The next day, I started working for her. She took a day to work with me and get me used to the company's systems and procedures. After that, I fell into the job. It was pretty mundane stuff. Do her expenses, fill out order requests for customers, answer emails, and such. It only took about 2 to 3 hours per day, and left me time to job hunt. And it left her with free time in the evenings. The interesting part is that she started making more sales due to having time for sales work. It was working out well for both of us. One of the job duties was maintaining her computers. I have a little bit of experience in this. I was updating software and keeping the virus scans up to date. I also organized everything to do with sales. It was a good thing, since Teresa did not take much time to do this, and things were a mess before I got there. As a consequence, the computers were working better and not crashing so often, and Teresa was not losing files like she used to. After a month of this, she offered to pay me a small salary since she was making so much more, and it was starting to take up most of my day. It was a sweet deal for me. Room and board, no expenses, no hours wasted sitting in traffic while commuting, and some income. Patrick was getting used to me being around. Still, it meant that I had to be careful to put on my gay persona. I could not have women over, not that I knew any in the area. I also had to be careful to make sure that I did not get seen doing anything that might be considered too macho. No football on television, and I made sure that he would see me reading Teresa's women's magazines occasionally. Patrick took to teasing me by calling me Tina around the house. It irritated me, but I had to laugh at it as if I liked it, or at least didn't hate it. I guess it is a small price to pay for the job that I now seem to have. Then one day, while I was working, the phone rang. I answered it without looking at the caller ID. The only calls that I got on Teresa's work line were from her. This time it was a customer calling. He started with, "Hi, is this Tina?" I put on my best soft voice and said yes it is. The customer went on to introduce himself and explain about an error that had been made in his order. I was able to fix it for him right then. The call ended with the customer saying, "It was so nice to be able to talk to you directly and get a quick solution. I hope to talk to you again soon. Bye." I got out down the phone and was shaking. This was new. I had fooled the customer over the phone. When I told Teresa about it, she was thrilled. She said, "Now I can let you handle some more of my office work. Having customers call you directly instead of always calling me will help me a lot. I miss too many calls that way when I am busy with other customers." And so it went on. I started fielding calls. I was answering with Teresa's office. Tina speaking. And after a couple of weeks, I got used to it. I was talking like Tina as if I had been doing it all my life. I even got used to the small talk and attempted pickup lines from some of the customers. The teasing from Patrick kept on going. It is hard to argue with being called Tina when I answer to it all day. Even Teresa started to call me Tina. She picked it up from Patrick. When I complained to her, she told me that it was to get her used to it, so she would not slip up at work. A good point, I guess. With all the work I was doing around the office, I did not do much job hunting. And this was partly because I liked the job I was in. I realized how much I hated the rat race when I was in it. Dressing in a suit, commuting, dealing with psycho bosses each day. All that crap was gone here. Just do my job and relax. And Teresa loved it. She just did her sales part and left the rest to me. After 5 months had gone by, Teresa's sales numbers were way up. I was completely at home working remotely with her office and the people there. I did as much as possible by email and some by phone. This caused a few comments from the people at her office. "When are we going to meet you in person? And we should get together for lunch." I put these off with excuses about being busy. And it was true to a certain extent. I was busy now that Teresa's customer base was getting bigger. Teresa told me that the upper management was noticing as well. That usually happens in businesses when they have one employee who is bringing in lots of sales and profits for them. Because Teresa was making so much commission, she started to pay me. The amount she paid me was not as much as I made at previous positions, but with room and board and no expenses, I was just putting the money away. I had not realized how much I had spent before just on commuting and lunches. Then one day, I got an email from the office. It was an itinerary for the yearly sales meeting. It was a 3-day meeting at a conference center about an hour's drive outside of the city. Teresa and I were both expected to go. I was still thinking up a good excuse to dodge it when the CEO called. He said I just wanted to make sure that my Rising Star sales team will be at the sales conference this year. I am looking forward to meeting you. When I told Teresa that night when she got home, I told her that I would have to find some excuse. She said that she would think of something. It was not for a month. The next day, Teresa told me she had a solution. I would go as Tina. She told me that I could fake as a girl in person. I had already mastered it on the phone, and all that was needed was a bit of makeup and a bit of practice. I did not agree with that. I told her that I could not and would not pull that off. Teresa could not see why I objected. She said, "It is not like I am asking you to do something bad, just dress as a girl for 3 days. Half the world does it every day." She argued with me a bit, and we came to an agreement. I would try dressing as a girl, and if she could make me passable by the meeting in a month, I would go as Tina. If it was not going to work, she would find some excuse. It would not be easy for her if I did not go. The sales meeting is mandatory and nobody gets out of it. It would be bad for her career, and that would be bad for me since she was paying me. Teresa was one of those girls who always look perfect. She sees customers on a daily basis, so she always wears a business professional look. Either a suit or jacket and skirt combination. Her makeup is always carefully done, and she always wears high heels. She told me that she has worn them long enough that she is comfortable in them. I guess if anybody could pull this off, she could. On the following weekend, she took me shopping. She said that she would pretend to be shopping for her, although it was for me. When I asked why I had to go, she told me that I might learn something, and she liked my company. But before we went, she asked me to shave my legs. I balked at this, but she pointed out that the hair would grow back. So I shaved. And off we went. She shopped, and I felt like the husband that is relegated to holding the purse. In the first store, we bought some underwear. She picked out a one-piece foundation that was labeled Firm Control Corselet. She also bought stockings. In the next store, she bought pants, skirts, blouses, and shoes. All the clothes were business-like. She took me into the change room with her to try things on. I was afraid somebody would come in and see me. She had me put on the corselet and stockings. Then I tried on the rest. The skirts and blouses, and the pants, and one dress. This took hours. We had to leave the change rooms to get different sizes. For that I had to put my regular clothes back on, although I left on the foundation. We were back to the change room 7 times before she was happy with the fit. The shoes were all pumps with 3 to 4 inch heels. She also got a pair of boots with a 4-inch heel that was not as thin as the heels on the shoes. She told me that I would need something if the weather was bad. It took a few tries to get boots that fit my male calves. Lastly, we got a pair of mules with 3-inch heels which she told me were for wearing around the house. I commented to her that this was a lot of clothes for a 3-day conference, and she informed me that I would need 3-day outfits, and 3 outfits for evenings, and something to travel in, and clothes to wear during my practice before the conference. She also bought lots of makeup. At least I did not need to try this on in the store. Lastly, she took me to a store in a strip mall on the other side of the city. It specialized in cross-dressers and transvestites. She got padded panties, and breast forms, and a corset. I tried on a few wigs, and ended up with a brunette wig with shoulder-length hair. When we finally got home, we put all the clothes in my room. I couldn't wait to get out of the tight corselet. I was going to put the clothes away when she said, "Now let's try them on." But I already tried them in the store. That was for fit. Now you need to try it all together. So she helped me with the breast forms and the padded panties. Then she said that I needed to learn about makeup. She told me that the makeup goes on before the outer clothes so that I don't get any on my clothes. The first step was a close shave, and then she plucked my eyebrows. I did not want to have thin girly eyebrows. She promised to only clean them up, so they would look neat, but not obviously girly. I think she went a bit too far, but I could probably get away with this as a boy. She gave me lessons on makeup. It took 2 hours. She said I did okay for a first try, but I needed practice. That would have taken her only 20 minutes. I looked really funny. The makeup really changed my face, but I still looked boyish. That is until she added the wig. After she combed it out, the difference was amazing. Then it was back to the clothes. I ended up modeling everything for her. I could not believe how I looked. With the makeup and wig, I had a completely different looking face. With the female clothes, I just looked like a female. After I had tried everything, she told me she had a surprise. She went to her closet and got out a garment bag. She took a suit out of it. The suit was a gray suit with a pencil skirt. She said, "I bought this for you a few days ago. I hope I got your size right." The skirt was too tight, so she had me put on the corset. She laced me tightly. I thought I would not be able to breathe in it, but after a few minutes I got used to it. She had me wait for 10 minutes, and then she tightened it more. Then the skirt and jacket fit. She added a pair of pumps with 4-inch heels. I looked like an executive secretary in it. It was amazing. It was also confining. The combination of my waist being squeezed by the corset, the narrow skirt and heels make me feel like I was in bondage. She said I should keep this on for the rest of the day to get used to it. She took me out to show me to Patrick, who laughed and told me that I really was Tina now. Since it was late in the afternoon, we ordered in pizza for dinner. When it arrived, I found that I could not eat much without feeling really full. This was because of the corset crushing me. After dinner we watched a movie and had a few drinks. Teresa gave me a choice of what movie I wanted to watch. Of course, I had to pick a chick flick. Patrick continued to tease me about being a real girl now. I felt very humiliated. All throughout the day, Teresa was telling me to check my makeup. Several times I had to redo my lipstick, and once she had me touch up the rest of my makeup. It is all part of being a girl, she said. I wanted to take off the clothes, but Teresa told me to keep them on for the evening. She said that I would have to get used to them so that I would feel normal in them. At 11 p.m., she took me to the bathroom and showed me how to clean off the makeup and lipstick. She told me that girls always clean their faces before going to bed. It is important for the skin. Then she showed me how to put on moisturizer for the night. It had been a long day. I did not know how much work shopping for women's clothes is. I got undressed and was asleep in quickly. The next morning I got up and went into the kitchen to make coffee. Teresa was there. She looked at my housecoat and said, "We can do better than that old ratty housecoat. I have something more appropriate." She went to her bedroom and came back with a nightie, a pink housecoat and my mules. She had me put them on. I could see the purpose of the shoes. It was to keep me used to heels. I asked why the nightie and housecoat. She said I had to stay in female mode all the time so it would feel natural when I went to the sales meeting. We had a light breakfast, and then she told me to get dressed. I asked what I should be wearing, and she said, "Today you should dress as a stylish woman running errands about town. Pants and a top are fine. Put on subtle makeup today." I had not planned to dress in girls' things today, but I showered and put on the corselet and pantyhose. The corselet was tight, but not as bad as the corset I wore yesterday. I put on the mules, because she told me to always wear shoes when in pantyhose or stockings, otherwise it was too easy to snag them on the floor and get a run. I did a close shave, then the makeup. I had an idea on what to do on the makeup. All the reading of the women's magazines helped here. What I did not have was any experience. The first try looked clownish. Teresa came to see how I was doing and laughed. She had me scrub it all off and start again. She gave me a few pointers as I did it. This time it came out passable. She left me to finish up. I added the pants and top and finally the wig. After combing out the wig, I came downstairs. It was a funny feeling coming downstairs. I felt like a teenager on her prom night. The metamorphosis from little girl into a woman, except this time it was man to woman. Teresa and Patrick told me how good I looked. Teresa said, "We have to do something today. You can't waste all that effort. Let's do lunch." I changed my mules to boots with high heels. Teresa was wearing a similar outfit, but she looked much better than me. She got me one of her old purses. Then the three of us went to a restaurant in a mall. It was my first time out dressed as a girl. And it felt weird. I was sure that everybody was staring at me. In truth, they might have been staring at Teresa. She is just so beautiful. The sound of my boots seemed to echo, almost loud enough to be heard over the sound of blood rushing in my ears. Once we got seated in a booth in the restaurant, I felt a bit better. The waitress came by, and we ordered. I was so scared that she would see through me, she could barely hear my subdued voice. The food came and I started to relax. I actually forgot that I was dressed as a girl until Teresa warned me to be careful about my lipstick. She pointed at my glass, and I saw the telltale red on it. Her glass did not have any marks on it. I asked her why, and she told me that she had on a long-wearing lipstick that did not come off easily. After lunch, Teresa said, "We should get you some lipstick that won't come off. Let's go shopping." I didn't want to, but she said, "All girls love to go shopping. Stop fussing." So off we went. I don't think Patrick was all that interested in going shopping with the girls. She took us to the cosmetic area of a large drugstore. I had never looked at this area before. If I went into the drugstore in the past, I always skipped over it. This time I was walking the aisles, with Teresa looking at the huge collection of makeup and hair products and nail products. Teresa went through things with me and suggested some lip stain instead of lipstick. I ended up buying it in a red shade. Teresa said that with my features and skin tone, I should wear red lipstick, not pink. She then had me go to a shoe store and try on more shoes. I asked why I needed more shoes and she said, because girls always need more shoes. I ended up buying a pair of black sparkly sandals with very high heels. She told me that they were party shoes. I didn't think I would be going to parties, but I went along. All through this, poor Patrick was along for the ride, and often holding the purses. He thought he was suffering, but he did not know how I felt. All he had to do was hold a purse. I had to carry it while in a skirt and heels. He left us early to go home and watch the football game. I had to stay and shop, because that is what girls do. I would rather have gone with Patrick to watch the game. Teresa and I would take a taxi home. By the time we got home I had lip stain, the sandals, some blush, mascara, and a new dress. Teresa paid for this since it was all her idea anyway. I was exhausted. It felt good to get out of the boots with 4-inch heels and into the mules with only 3-inch heels. The game had finished, and Patrick spent some time teasing me about my girl shopping. We spent another evening watching movies. Patrick got to pick the movie. It was nice to watch a guy movie. I noticed a few different things. The women in guy movies are always hot babes. When the women were on screen, I found myself looking not at their boobs and butts, but their outfits. I was wondering how they could run in those heels, and how they kept their hair and makeup so perfect. Eventually, I went to bed. This time I could do the routine of cleaning off makeup and moisturizing by myself. The next morning, it was Monday, and time to go to work. Teresa told me to get dressed. I knew what that meant. I put on my corset and stockings, and did my makeup. I added the wig and dress and high pumps. She had me use the lip stain today. My makeup was not as good as Teresa's, but better than yesterday. Teresa spent 10 minutes helping me correct my mistakes, and she and Patrick went to work. And I went to my office and went to work also. I was doing my normal job of the sales reports, making sure customers were getting their information, products, and invoices, and general office work. I answered a few calls from customers and the head office. I could almost forget how I was dressed. I was getting used to the heels, since I was sitting and not walking in them. The squeezing from the corset did not let me forget that I was wearing it. The flash of red from my nails was hard to ignore. Most importantly, when I had to use my girl voice on the calls, I remembered. 2 hours later, when drank a cup of coffee, I did notice that there were no lipstick stains on the cup. I checked myself in the mirror, and my lipstick was flawless. A thought occurred to me. With red-stained lips, red nails, and my cleaned-up eyebrows, I was not going to go quickly back to boy mode. It would take hours to clean of my lips and nails and make up enough to look like a boy. At lunchtime, Teresa called to ask some questions about a customer's order. She also said I should check my makeup and redo it if it was messy. I did, and I realized that my beard was beginning to show through. I cleaned off the makeup and shaved, then put the makeup on again. This was going to be a problem if I had to do this every 4 hours. The rest of the day went on like a normal day. At 5 o'clock, I made supper. I had gotten in the habit of this over the last few months, and Teresa and Patrick really liked coming home to a supper waiting for them. Over supper, I complained to Teresa about the corset hurting. She suggested that tomorrow, I could wear the corselet. The next day I did wear the corselet. It felt wonderful to not be crushed by a cruel corset. Again, I had to redo the makeup at lunchtime. Teresa called later and told me that I had to go shopping for groceries. We were getting low on supplies. This meant that I had to go out in girl mode, by myself. I felt scared. This was a big step. I decided to try to be low-key. I took off the skirt and put on the pants. The pants were too long, but when I added the boots, they were just right. Clearly these pants could only be worn with heels. I have always liked the look of girls in pants, with high stiletto heels. I think it is because their legs look so long, and the thin spikes that peek out at the bottom are exciting. Now I was looking like that. I drove to the grocery store. My heart was pounding. I took a deep breath, and got out of my car and walked into the store, heels clicking, and butt swinging. You have to swing your butt a bit when you are waking in high heels. I got a cart and got all the groceries. The cart was comforting, as it was something to hang on to, and it masked out the click of my heels. Since it was the middle of the day, most of the other shoppers were the stay-at-home mothers. And they all seemed to have high-end cars and SUVs. I also noticed that many of them seemed to know each other. They were all wearing comfortable flat shoes and jeans, and most did not have on any makeup. While in the lineup, one of them commented that she liked my outfit. She asked to see my boots, so I pulled up my pant leg a bit. She loved them. She added that she did not have time to dress up, what with taking care of kids and such. We walked out to our cars together. She invited me to go for coffee with her, so we went next door to a Starbucks. We had a nice chat. Her name was Sandy. She said that the housewives often meet here in the afternoons when the kids are at school. I told her that I was out of the office for a few hours doing errands. She told me that her husband worked in a bank head office downtown. I could not resist being a bit of a troublemaker. I said that I had to dress up for work, since I worked in an office and all the pretty young clerks and secretaries always dressed to kill. They were always on the prowl for a rich executive. It is very tempting to men who come home to nagging wives dressed like slobs when they had been around pretty sweet girls all day who are just so sweet to them. Those gold-digging girls would love to be a stay-at-home trophy wife. and a second wife position would be just fine. Sandy looked a bit pale. She said that she was going shopping this afternoon. After our coffees, we both left. We agreed to get together for coffee next week at the same time. I bet she will not be greeting her husband in track pants and no makeup today. I got home and put away the groceries. Suddenly I realized something. I had totally forgotten that I was in girl mode. I spent a bit of time doing office work and then got supper ready. The rest of the week was just like this. Dress, work, do some housework in my spare time, and sleep. On Friday evening, Teresa told me that she had a surprise. She had booked me an appointment with an esthetician. Tomorrow I would be getting my beard permanently removed. I said no way. That is too much. Teresa countered with the argument that it would not be a problem. I just would not have to shave again. Since I never grew a beard as a boy, it should not bother me. So Saturday morning, I was allowed to wear the corset, which was positively comfortable compared to the corset I had worn during the week. I found myself in a salon that specializes in hair removal. I could not wear any makeup for this. I felt really self-conscious, but the technician told me that they often get girls like me. It turns out that it is a slow, painful procedure. I was also informed that I would have to come back weekly for a few more treatments. Fortunately, it hurts less each time. The other item is that she worked around my eyebrows to clean them up. When she was done, my face was red. It was not from embarrassment, it was from the treatment. By the time we got home, some of the redness was going away. Teresa had me moisturize my face. I could not wear any makeup for hours, so I stayed at home and did some housework. The next day, Patrick told me that his friend Tom was coming over to watch the game. I figured that I would just stay out of sight in my room. Patrick also told me that Tom was looking forward to meeting me. Apparently, Tom knew about me. This was going to be strange. Teresa just laughed. She said I needed to get used to dealing with men anyway. I was starting to think that this sure is a lot of work for one 3-day sales meeting. Teresa had better appreciate all the trouble I was going to. I dressed in pants and a top. Patrick told me to wear a skirt. Teresa said she had just the skirt. I ended up wearing the top with a loose skirt and my mules. And of course I wore the corset, makeup and wig. The makeup was easier because I do not have any facial hair. Also, my lips are still red from yesterday. I still reapplied my red lip stain. When Tom arrived, I was introduced. He was tall. In my comfortable 3-inch heels, I am a lot shorter than him. It is strange to find that 3-inch heels are now comfortable. Just a few weeks ago, I would have found them quite uncomfortable. Now I don't even notice them. Patrick and Tom sat down in front of the television, and Patrick told me to bring beers and snacks. When I brought out the beer and pretzels and chips, Tom said, "Aren't you going to watch the game too?" So, I got myself and Teresa glasses of wine, and we joined them. Patrick and Teresa sat in the easy chairs, leaving the couch for Tom and myself. I could quickly see where this was going. I basically made small talk with Tom and tried to sit as far from him on the couch as possible. At halftime, I quickly got up and went to the kitchen to warm up some chicken wings. Teresa followed me into the kitchen. She berated me. "Why are you acting so cold to Tom? He is a nice guy, and he likes you. He knows that you are a boy and he is okay with it. When you go back in there, you had better be nicer to him. Patrick thinks you are gay, so if you want to live here, you had better remember that." She took some drinks out and left me to ponder what I should do. Finally, I decided that I could suck it up. It is only for another month. When I went back in, I was all smiles. I sat on the couch and tried to just be a guy watching a football game with another guy and not think that he was thinking about me as a piece of meat. Then I started to have a nice time. Just watching a game and enjoying the food and talking about football. After the game, Teresa said that Tom should stay for supper. Teresa and I went back to the kitchen to get more drinks, and start thinking about supper. We did not have any plans, so this would be winging it. Teresa said, "That is an improvement. Thank you. It is important to me that you continue to act as my secretary, and to do that, you have to convince Patrick that you are gay." Tom came into the kitchen to see if he could help. As if he was just looking for an excuse to get me alone. He was looking at me like I was lunch. And Teresa was not helping. She asked him to help me with supper. Then she left, leaving me alone with him. I felt like a lamb being led to slaughter. I had decided to make spaghetti. It is easy and had all the ingredients. I started to get them all out of the refrigerator and cupboards. When I reached up to get the spaghetti out of a high cupboard in the corner, I felt 2 arms go around my waist from behind. I was trapped in the corner, and I didn't want to make a scene. "Please. This isn't fair," I quietly begged. The problem is that people, who really don't want you to do something, usually say it loudly. My message was not getting through. Then he started blowing in my ear and whispering, "You don't really want me to stop. You want me to hold you like this." The blowing on my ear was quickly getting to me. My ears are very sensitive. Then he put his tongue in my ear, and I melted. I was helpless. He tried to kiss me. Then just for a moment, I was able to think again. I pulled back and tried to turn around. At that point, Teresa walked in. I was pinned in the corner of the countertop in the kitchen by Tom, who had his arms around me, and I looked flustered. Teresa said, "I see you two are getting along well." Tom let go, and I slid out of his grasp. He said, "Can I take you out to dinner on Thursday?" I looked at Teresa in desperation. She just nodded at me. When I didn't say anything, she said, "Tina would love to go on a date with you. Pick her up at 7 o'clock. I will leave you two alone now." Then she left the room. I looked at Tom and said, "Okay, it's a date, but you behave yourself tonight. Now go back in the living room so I can make supper." Tom left, and I cooked supper. Thankfully, he did not come back into the kitchen and molest me again. We ate dinner, and then Tom said he had to leave since he was getting up early Monday for a business trip. When he went to leave, we were all at the door. He suddenly put his arms around me and kissed me goodbye. I was totally stunned. I just stood there and let him do it. The next morning, it was back to work Monday. It was the same as last week. I had to put on the corset, which crushed my waist. It did not seem as bad as last week. I think my waist is getting used to it. I told Teresa this, and she said, "If a corset is getting comfortable, then it is too loose. Tomorrow we will tighten it some more." The next morning, Teresa helped me tighten the corset until the edges were together. I felt crushed again like when I first wore it. She told me, "You have to buy a couple of new corsets today. Get some that are 4 inches smaller than these. Then we will be able to adjust them as your waist shrinks." I had noticed that my waist was getting a bit smaller, but that is probably because I am not eating much. It is not possible to eat when your waist is crushed in. You feel full after a few bites. Like last week, I went grocery shopping and then went to the Starbucks next door. Sandy was there. So were a few of her friends. I was introduced to them. I had noticed some of them in the grocery store last week. It was interesting to note that Sandy was wearing a dress and high heels. I commented how nice she looked. She told me that she had just had lunch with her husband. He had slipped out of the office for a long lunch. But he can do that since he is a vice president of the company. The other women were also dressed better than they were when I saw them last week. I think my lecture must have influenced them. I got an email on Moo BlackBerry. It was from Teresa. "After buying corsets, get a dress for your date with Tom." Just what I needed. Another shopping trip. So I spent the entire afternoon shopping. First I got two corsets. One was black and one was white. They were both overbust styles. And they were both tight, even with a 4-inch gap at the back. Then I went dress shopping. I was looking for something that was pretty and sexy, while not looking slutty. Was I starting to think like a woman? It took hours, but I eventually found a green dress with long sleeves and a hemline that was about 4 inches above the knee. It was tailored with a fairly narrow waist. The only size they had was a bit tiny on the waist, but I figured I could live with that. Of course, when I got home, I had to model it for Teresa and Patrick. They both said how nice I looked. Teresa said that I would have to tighten the corset a bit to prevent bunching at the waist. She had me put on the white corset, and she took 2 more inches off my waist. I thought I was going to split in half, but the dress did hang a lot better on me that way. I changed back into my house clothes, which this time was a loose skirt and sweater. She let me loosen the corset until it had a 4-inch gap. It was still tight, but it was better than before. I did now know how I was going to get through a night in it laced tight. Eventually Thursday rolled around. Even though I had been working extra hard all week, I had been worrying about the date. I had to work extra hard because I was losing a lot of time to checking my appearance and shopping. Teresa came home early to help me get ready. She laced me tightly into my new corset and did my makeup. She is still better at it than me. She gave me beautiful smoky eyes. Of course I was wearing red lipstick. Teresa teased me about it being my signature style. She plucked out a few more of my eyebrows. After she helped me comb out my wig and put on a slip and my new dress, she picked out a pair of ankle-strap pumps with 4-inch heels. When I checked myself in the full-length mirror, I could hardly believe what I saw. I looked good. I looked completely like a girl going on a date. Most importantly, I looked like a girl. A girl who is teetering in high stilettos and squeezed into a tight corset. But it was almost worth the discomfort. I loved the look. Then we went downstairs and poured ourselves some wine and waited for Tom. Patrick came home from work before Tom got there. He said he wanted to see how I looked. I thought my heart was going to explode when the doorbell rang. I looked at Teresa and Patrick, but Teresa just said, "Aren't you going to answer the door?" I got up and tiptoed to the door. In 4-inch heels, you always tiptoe. Not that I noticed it much anymore. It was natural now. I took a quick look in the mirror by the door. Everything seemed to be in place. Then I opened the door. Tom was standing there smiling. He was wearing a sport jacket, but no tie. He stepped inside, and when I closed the door, he leaned over and gave me a quick kiss on the lips. I wanted to pull back, but Teresa, and most importantly Patrick, were watching. "Are you ready to go?" he asked. "Yes." So I got my coat. He took it from me and held it as I put it on. I had never had that before. It felt odd. I have become used to the clothes and makeup and high heels, but I was not used to being treated like a girl. He also held the door for me and opened the car door. It was kind of nice. It makes you feel special. I think I like this part of being a girl. He took me out for dinner at a nice restaurant. There was no parking nearby. It was a 10-minute walk from the car. It would have been only a 5-minute walk if it was not for my high stiletto heels. I would have liked to walk at a faster pace, but that makes the heels click louder and also turns my wiggle into a struggle. It is not very appealing seeing a woman who looks like she is in heels too high for her to walk in properly. When we entered the restaurant, I was glad that I was dressed up. I saw some other women there, in jeans, and some dressed to kill. I also noticed that the men with the women in casual attire seemed to have rubber necks. They kept looking at the well-dressed women, especially the ones in heels, when they wiggled by. The evening went by. First wine, then dinner, then dessert, and finally coffee. After all of this, I had to pee. This was a problem, because I would have to use the women's washroom. When I could no longer hold it, I excused myself, and took a deep breath, and went in. There was one woman in there. I just went straight into the stall, and relieved myself. Of course I remembered to sit, not stand. I did not want any unwelcome attention. When I came out of the stall, I was alone, so I quickly washed my hands. Then checked my face in the mirror. I did not need any touch-ups, mostly due to the long-lasting lip stains I have been using. I did not want to be too long in the washroom, because, if I was detected, that could cause problems. Also, I did not want to leave Tom too long. I have been on the other end of that, and I hate sitting in a restaurant by myself for a long time while a date is in the washroom. It is just rude. I returned to the table. We left the restaurant. As before, he held my jacket and the door. Then while we walked to the car, he held my hand. He just took my hand. I did not know what to do. It was like when he kissed me. I just went along with it. I was too stunned to do anything else anyway. I felt like I was going to die of embarrassment. I was sure that people were staring and laughing. Finally, I realized that they were not. We just looked like any other couple strolling along. The walk back to the car seemed to take forever. It probably took longer than when we went in. He was walking slower, I think to take advantage of holding my hand. Also, it slows you down when you walk holding hands. At the car, he held the door for me as before, but when I went to get in, before I could bend down, he put his arm around my waist and pulled me close to him. Then he kissed me. I should have been wise to this. I have done this trick on girls myself. Pin them in the corner and catch them off guard. And this was not a peck on the cheek type kiss. This was a full on the lips. You know you have been kissed. Close your eyes, passionate kiss. And I let it happen. Then I melted into him, and before I knew it, I had my arms around his neck, pulling myself into him. I could feel his hands in the small of my back. He was holding me close to him. I could also tell he was feeling the laces in my corset through my dress and slip. When he stopped, I slid down and got into the seat before it could go any further. I could barely catch my breath. My head was swimming. I don't kiss boys, I kiss girls. This was all wrong. I was going to have to end this before Tom got any more ideas. He drove me home. He commented that not many girls wear a corset. I just wanted to get inside as quick as possible. I figured that if I got to the door, I could get it open, give him a quick peck on the cheek, and get him out of there. It did not work that way. Once I opened the door, he stepped into the entrance and again grabbed me. Next thing I knew is that my mouth had 2 tongues in it, and his had none at all. The Teresa came into the hall and said we have coffee on. Tom, come and join us. I did not know whether to thank her for getting me out of that situation, or strangle her for inviting him in. So Tom went to the kitchen, and I headed off to my bedroom. I planned to get out of my dress and heels and unlace the corset. Teresa came into my bedroom as I was undoing the strap on my shoes. She said, "No, you don't. Keep those on until he leaves." Men love seeing women in heels, and especially ones who look comfortable enough to keep them on. I told Teresa how he had kissed me, and that I did not want to encourage that. She took mercy on me, and said she would show me a trick to avoid getting kissed. She said to wait, and then left. A few moments she came back with a lipstick. She put it on me. It was bright red. She said men do not like to kiss girls who wear bright red lipstick. We went to the living room for coffee. I ended up sitting beside Tom on the couch. Like he hadn't planned that. He took the opportunity to put his arm around me and keep me close. I made sure that he saw the red lipstick stain that I had deliberately put on my coffee mug. This worked. After coffee, he left and kissed me goodbye, but it was a polite kiss, not like before. Now that that ordeal was over, I cleaned up the kitchen. Teresa came in to help. While we cleaned up, she started asking me all about the date. What did he do? Where did we go? Did he kiss me? She asked about all the details. Girl talk. Guys would not do that. If they wanted to talk about a girl, it would be nothing if they did not like her, or if they did, she was cute. I did not have to worry about this again, as he was going away on an extended business trip for 6 months. By the time he got back, I have done the sales conference. Then I would be home free. I could go back to being a boy again. I just wanted to fall into my bed, but I went through the routine of cleaning off my makeup and moisturizing. It felt good to be out of the tight corset and into a loose nightie. The next 2 weeks went on as before. I kept busy with work. Every day I dressed as if I was going to a business office. Every morning Teresa would approve of my attire or have me change something. Sometimes she would have me change something in my makeup or suggest different shoes. There were also 2 more visits to the salon to get my facial hair done. They were right. It did not hurt as much as the first time. The last time, there was almost nothing to do. At Teresa's insistence, I got my nails done. They were done in a red that is supposed to not chip or come off for 3 weeks. I was told that it was perfect for travel, since I would not have to worry about my nails for the whole trip. Finally, it was time for the sales conference. There was no arguing about it. Teresa had made me into a passable girl. Teresa and I packed our things. Lots of clothes, an entire large suitcase full. I ended up with a case just for makeup and 1 bag full of shoes. A month ago, I would have wondered why so much stuff. After all, a man would only take 2 pairs of shoes. 1 casual for travel, and 1 for while he was there. But I was not going there as a man. I needed different shoes for each day, and evening shoes, and changes of clothes, and makeup and hair products. In the past, when I used to work in an office, I noticed that the dress code was different for men and women. It was called business casual. What that really meant is casual for men and business for women. Women still wore suits and skirts, and always heels. I had just never appreciated how much effort women have to go through for this. For travel, I wore dress pants and my high-heeled boots. And of course my makeup and hair were carefully done. While other women might not even wear makeup when not at the office, I had to. If not, I simply looked like a boy in a dress, and I don't want that. The trip was a 90-minute drive to a conference center and hotel up north. I was glad that Teresa was driving. I would have been too nervous. I shouldn't have been, since I knew I could pass as a girl in public. But this was different. I was going to be in close quarters with many other people. We arrived and checked into the hotel. I met a couple of my co-workers in the lobby. They were all going to go to the bar for drinks. Teresa agreed to meet them there after we got into our room. We got to our room. It was a large room with 2 beds and a huge bathroom. It also had a refrigerator which Teresa filled with wine and pop. We checked our makeup. I did not want to leave the safety of our room. But Teresa dragged me to the bar. I met more people there. I was working hard to memorize names. It is always like that when you are the new person. They seemed very friendly. Probably part of that is because they had a few drinks in them before we got there. I got the feeling that this was going to be the pattern for the whole conference. Over the next hour, more and more of my coworkers came in. The bar got louder and louder. They all seemed to know each other well. Most of them were in sales, with a few engineers and managers. We all moved to a restaurant in the resort that had been reserved for us. I stayed close to Teresa. Dinner was followed by the usual speech from the president of the company, and I was officially introduced to everybody. After dessert, Teresa and I went back to our room. I did not know why, but I have learned to go along. Teresa said that tonight was the welcoming cocktail party. That meant we had to dress for it. She helped me with my makeup. She told me it was evening style. That meant a lot more. More eyeshadow, more blush, and redder lipstick. Not that I needed the lipstick much, as my lips by now seemed to be permanently red from all the lip stain. Then she picked out a dress that required a tighter corset. She had bought this dress last week and kept it for me as a surprise. It was a red and ended above my knees. It had a scoop neck, short sleeves, and was also quite tight around my thighs. Last of all, a pair of pumps with 5-inch heels. It covered me properly, and there was only a small amount of cleavage, which is good since what I do have is created with tape to squeeze things together. I felt completely indecent. The only reason that I did not refuse to wear this is that Teresa was wearing a dress that was shorter and tighter. She was also wearing high stiletto sandals. Her makeup was even more dramatic than mine. At 8 o'clock, we returned to the bar. We both got a lot of looks as we wiggled into the room in our heels. The party went on until late. I was actually enjoying myself. I was getting to know my coworkers. The men seemed to gravitate toward Teresa and me. I could see that many of them would have liked to fuck Teresa. I think that some of them would have liked to bend her over the nearest table and do it right there. And some of them were trying to pick me up too. As people got drunker, I was getting more attention. I was careful to stay sober for a couple of reasons. I did not want to make any silly mistakes that would get me made as a man. I needed to be able to remember names, and trips to the bathroom involved walking across a hard floor that was a bit slippery, and I knew all the men were watching me as I clicked along on my 2 high heels. I noticed that at least 3 couples were leaving together. They did not walk out together, but being one of the few who were still sober, I could observe better than most. It is easy to see when people are attracted to each other. They start to sit closer and lean toward each other when they talk. I saw people who did not arrive together getting drunk and finally leaving about 5 minutes apart. Office romances that were only going to lead to trouble. Teresa and I left at midnight. There were still a lot of people there, and they were going to be hurting in the morning. They wanted us to stay, at least the men did. We got back to our room and did the usual bedtime routines. The next morning, we got up early and showered and prepared ourselves for the day. I had practiced for this for the last month. I did my makeup and hair. I got dressed. First, the usual corset and panty girdle. Since I would not be wearing a jacket, I wore a slip. Then I wore a skirt and blouse. I looked like the perfect secretary. Halfway between professional and sexy but not slutty. I now know how easy it is to slip from sexy to office slut. All a girl needs to do is wear heels too high, or a skirt too tight, or lips too red, or cleavage, and she loses any respect from her coworkers and bosses. I was determined not to do that. Teresa would not be happy with me if I did. We had breakfast in the restaurant and hotel, and then went to the sales meeting. I noticed a few of the people were looking a bit hungover at breakfast. Some were not eating. I saw some of the couples that I saw leaving together, but not together last night. The women all were wearing extra makeup to cover the dark rings under their eyes. It was not hard to guess what they were doing all night. The sales meeting consisted of 2 days of product specialists and engineers giving presentations about the company's products. The last day was dedicated to sales techniques and company procedures. It was not bad at first, but by the end of each day, I was pretty tired of it. The salesmen have a name for this. They call it PowerPoint hell. Now I know why. But it was not all bad. It was pretty neat learning about the products. I had not realized the range of products we make. At the end of the first day, the evening was a repeat of the previous. We went from the meeting to dinner. After dinner, we went back to our room to freshen up, and then back to the bar. It was pretty much the same as yesterday. Lots of people were getting drunk. Several of the men were trying to hit on me. If they only knew. And of course the same couples left early. I was actually having a good time. About halfway through the evening, Teresa left with the CEO. They came back about an hour later. I did not even feel nervous without Teresa there to guide me. I even flirted with some of the men. In retrospect, I would not have done that if I knew then what I know now. When Teresa and I returned to our room at the end of the day, she told me what the CEO had talked to her about. She was offered a position as vice president of sales. This was a major step for her. The pay increase would be huge. She would not be traveling as much as she used to. She said that she had accepted the position. Saying no was not really an option. The CEO had also told her that I would be expected to continue working for her. I would now be paid directly by the company. Teresa had told him about me. He told her that my gender was really nobody's business but my own. That secret would remain safe. This also meant that we would be working from the company head office instead of from Teresa's home office. I told Teresa that this was not fair. This girl thing was only for the sales conference. It was not supposed to be permanent. She said that we would deal with that after the sales conference. And that was the end of that. The next day was just like the previous. Meetings during the day, and drinking at night. However, this night people were even rowdier than the nights before. It was the last night, and people seemed to letting loose. Teresa had me dress a bit more casual tonight. I was even in pants. Although they were nice dress pants, and paired with heels, and a blouse, I still looked professional. The last day of the conference was the part about sales and company operations. Just before lunch, the CEO made the announcement about Teresa becoming a vice president. He went on to explain that she would be working from the head office. He also said that I would be staying on as her executive assistant. I am always amused by the term executive assistant. It is modern speak for secretary. The meeting ended shortly after lunch and we went back to our room and packed and headed out. And it was over just like that. On the drive home, Teresa begged me to stay on a bit longer. At least until she could find a suitable replacement. And so 2 weeks later, she moved into her new office in the headquarters. And I moved into the desk just outside her office as her assistant. It is fortunate that the commute is only 15 minutes. Teresa always drives me to work. I have been working here now for 5 months. I have been growing out my hair. I have also had most of the hair on my body either waxed or epilated. It is so much easier than always having to shave. Nobody at work, except Teresa and the CEO and probably the Human Resources Department, knows my secret. I am just one of the girls. The pay is quite an improvement. Also, since I have almost no expenses, except for clothes and shoes and makeup, I have been putting a lot away into retirement accounts and investments. Yesterday, I was told that the company is going public. I will be getting a stock option at a really low price. All I have to do is stay for the minimum 5-year period to exercise the options, and I will have a large bonus. It could even be in the millions if the company's stock prices do well. At this rate, I will be able to retire quite early. I still meet with Sandy for coffee, and sometimes dinner with her and her husband. They are nice people. Her husband, Bob, thinks I am wonderful for the influence I have had on her. She dresses a lot better now. He told me once that it has really improved their sex life too. I am stuck in this situation now. I am always dressed as a girl. Almost nobody knows that I am a boy. I have grown out my hair and had it styled into a cute cut. It is below my ears now, but I think I may grow it longer. I have plucked my eyebrows into a more girlish shape. Not as thin and arched as some girls do, but I might want to be a boy again. They might look a bit feminine for a boy. It has been fun. Teresa loves to entertain, so we are always having dinners and parties. I have become a part of Teresa's group of friends. So here I am sitting at my desk. I am wearing a navy blue pencil skirt and white blouse, pumps with high stiletto heels and a shoulder-length brown hair. My makeup is perfectly done. My lips are red. Under it all, I am wearing a tight corset which is crushing my waist into a nice girl figure, lots of padding in the right places, and tan pantyhose. Tonight we are having some friends over for drinks. I am planning to wear a new hostess dress. It is tailored to my figure after I shape it with a corset and padding, and has a wide belt to show off the waist that the corset gives me, and a flared skirt. I will of course wear it with matching pumps. And it feels normal now. I don't even notice the heels. In fact, I can't go for very long in flats without it hurting my legs. Almost all my shoes now have high heels. Mostly they are about 4 inches, but for running around town doing errands, I have some 3-inch heels. I still can't forget that I am wearing a corset, but I am so used to it, that when I am not wearing it I feel wrong. Now, I wear casual clothes more often. I will often wear a pair of jeans or slacks. Of course, I never wear pants to work. And when I wear pants, I always wear high heels with them. I think it looks cute with a thin stiletto peeking out from a pair of pants. And I really like all the attention that I get when I am dressed up. I understand now why girls love clothes and shoes and makeup so much. I am starting to really enjoy shopping and fashion. On top of all of this, Tom will be coming back from his business trip in a month, and I will have to deal with that. I am not gay, and don't know what to do. So here is my dilemma. I could easily go back to being a boy. Just change into boy clothes, and wash off the makeup, and cut my hair, and learn to walk in flats again. And wait for the red staining to wear out of my lips. But then I would lose my job. It would probably never get this kind of position and pay again. I would probably not be able to stay with Teresa, since she has her life, both personal and professional, to consider. I would lose all my new friends too. And I think I would miss the heels. I think I will stay as a girl for now. Probably for the 5 years. Tonight Teresa and I will be going to a spa. I will get my nails done, and my eyebrows waxed. Then we will go out to a bar with Patrick. I fear that in 5 years, I will have trouble going back to being a boy. But that is a problem for another day. Right now, I am thinking about what dress to wear tonight.